This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and I'd like to echo Diego's comments in welcoming you to this hopefully productive training session for you. I'm very confident that when you leave this meeting, you will be considerably more informed about our products and what we can do for you. And as Diego mentioned as well, we are a resource for you at any time. I am in the East Coast of the US, but I'm an early riser. So for those of you that are on the West Coast, if you need me anytime after 5 a.m. or at the latest 6 a.m. my time, I am typically up and at work. So feel free to utilize that at any time. And this is just a quick overview of who I am, and so that you give a little background and understanding of where I came from, which is the technical side of the business. I've worked 16 years for York International as director of training, and then director of service and training for one of York's largest distributors for 15 years. I was a service manager and salesperson for a fairly large contractor, and prior to that, I was 9 years a service technician, where I was basically honing my trade, if you will. And I currently sit on 4 different technical committees that serve both Canada and the United States for NATE, PARA, RSCS, and ACCA. I sit on the technical advisory board for those organizations, and it's just an honor, if you will, to give back to the industry. So again, there's my email address up top, as well as my work telephone number, and feel free to call me at any time. And as I mentioned earlier, we will have plenty of time for questions. And but if you want to ask one in the middle, feel free. But I will have a slide that you'll recognize when we want to open it up for questions from all. So in addition to my work experience, I also spend a great deal of time doing this. So I either work or I fish. Unfortunately, right now, I can't because of I'm in Florida and my boat is up in Virginia. But if any of you make your way to Virginia, there's a seat on the boat for you, and you would be welcome to go fishing with me. That's my current boat. This is the next boat. So this is on the wish list. So the company is Olympia Splendid, and I've been working with them since September of 2019. And I have a few slides here about the company, but I typically only show a couple for these quick meetings. But I think it's important for you, as well as your customers, to know that this is not a Johnny-come-lately organization. They've been around since 1956. They are a very well-respected organization with a global footprint. They have very unique products that are designed and manufactured in Brescia, Italy, which is about 90 minutes from Venice, and unfortunately within about 30 kilometers of one of the hottest red zones for the virus in the world. But they are staying as safe as they can, and hopefully we're all going to get past this. This is our global footprint. As you can see, we have representation on 4 separate continents, and Europe, as well as Asia and South America, North America, and of course Australia. So this product has been around, and this company has been around for a number of years. So the product we're going to start with is what we call our Maestro line, and Maestro with no outdoor unit. So this is a self-contained unit that mounts on an outside wall. And again, as this picture shows, no outdoor unit whatsoever. So no windows that are taken up. The only thing you see on the outside after installation are these 2 grills. And I wanted to point out quickly that these grills are, they're plastic, and of course they come with every unit. So these all ship with the units, and everything you need to do the installation ships in the box. This upper right-hand picture shows the unit having been installed underneath a window. And then if you look at this lower picture, you can see multiple sets of units that were installed high on the wall. And the point being, these can be installed either 4 inches from the top or 4 inches from the bottom of a wall. And it must be an outside wall, a wall that communicates with the outside. And the wall can't be any thicker than 39 inches. And there can be no elbows, no bends in the duct that goes from the indoors to the outdoors. Okay. I got to get rid of these drawing here. All right. So again, there you see a look at the unit. It is an Italian design. It is manufactured as well as designed in Italy. And this is the unit we're talking about first is called the Maestro Smart. And that is a single stage unit, compressor on, compressor off, multiple stage motors. And it's both heating and cooling. So we have 9,212 BTUs of cooling, approximately 8,600 BTUs of heating. And it has a dehumidification mode, silent mode, night mode. So it has many of the features that we also have on our Pro model, which we'll talk about next. Easy maintenance, filters are easily accessible. And again, every unit ships with a remote control. And the remote control, and I'll point out a little more about that in the next slide coming up, but it is a patented design. And knowing what I do about the design process for manufacturers, suffice it to say that this product is very unique. And if someone does try to replicate it, it's probably 2 to 3 years away before they might be able to do that. So you will have a certain level of exclusivity with this type of product for at least a few years to come. The warranty on the compressor is 7 years. 2-year warranty on all parts. And if a compressor fails within the first year, we simply give you another unit. And the only caveat to that would be I have to get the other unit back so that I can either directly to me or to one of our authorized service centers that can actually evaluate to see what the problem with the compressor was. And I tell people all the time that the service contractors and that we authorize, they're told very quickly that they can't expect a great deal of service calls because the unit is simply too reliable. And by example, when I was with a manufacturer and we were designing a product, after the product hit the field, we would measure what we call the warranty ratio. And that was a ratio of warranty parts to sales. Typically, there are 3 criteria that go into that. Within the first 30 days, parts that fail within the first year, and parts that fail within the first 5 years. And when you combine those numbers, you come up with a metric that if we had a combined ratio of less than 2%, we thought we were geniuses because that's simply very, very good when you're talking about a lot of mechanical parts. This product has been out there for almost 20 years. There are almost 500,000 of them in the field today. So it's not a new product by any stretch. The Pro is a new introduction, but it's based on the same principles and design. The warranty failure rate for this product over the 20-year period is 0.002%. And quite frankly, that's almost perfect. So failures are not something you'll run into very quickly or in any great quantity. In the right, you see 2 values listed, STC and OITC. STC sound transmission class, and OITC is outdoor transmission class. These are values that are used by many of the cities in the United States where transmitting noise from outside to inside is very well controlled because no one wants to hear the buses and the horns and all the other noises you can associate in the city. That if you install a unit, that it increases that discomfort and noise. So these values here, 36 for STC and OITC 25, are the highest values in the industry. No one comes close to them. So that to me is another competitive advantage for you in that you can profess to have the quietest unit in the marketplace when compared to, say, other units such as PTACs or PHACs. So the installation is quite simple. It shouldn't take more than an hour to an hour and a half in most installations. Basically, you position the drilling template on the wall. And again, as I mentioned, the wall has to communicate with the outside. And the template is about 24 inches by 36 inches. It has all the dimensions on it. These are all in standard. We also have the metric values as well for you folks up in Canada. That would make it life easier for you. Again, notice the hole sizes here. There are 2 holes, both for the intake, or 2 possible choices for both the condenser air in and condenser air out. So you can see this outside circle here is 8 inches around, as is the outside circle here. And the recommendation from the factory is that both of these holes be 8 inches, but you can, if you're faced with geometric constraints on the job site, or if you're faced with a pipe that's in the way or something along those lines, you can make the holes 6.4 inches, if you will. Again, when you have a hole that's that smaller than the 6.4, you lose a little bit of efficiency, something that's measurable, although not terribly excluding of capacity, and not, you're not losing a great deal, but it should always be noted that the 8 inch is the preferred. And then here's where you make your hole for the condensate drain. This is a heat pump, so there's condensate produced in the summer, and of course, because of defrost, there is some condensate in the winter, which for the folks in the northern climates, has to be dealt with very carefully. So we'll talk about that going forward. And up here is where you see the bracket for mounting the unit. After you cut the holes, you then have to install the ductwork. So you can see the bracket is on the wall here, and you see the ductwork being inserted into the holes. The ductwork is shipped with the unit, and so everything you need comes with it. So there's the ductwork. It is nothing more than flat, black, matte plastic, a composite plastic that simply you cut it to about 1 inch less than the thickness of your wall, and then you roll it into a circle. You now have an 8 inch duct or a 6.4 inch duct. You put a piece of tape along the top seam and a piece of tape along the inside seam, and then you install it with the seam up, and your ductwork is finished. One of the other neat properties about this unit is the ability to not even have to go outside. So you're cutting your hole from the inside, and if possible, you're cutting it all the way through to the outside, and then you can take the grills. You install your ductwork into the wall. You take your grills, which fold in half and are spring loaded. You attach springs and chains to the grill, push it out through the hole, pull it up against the wall. You're now done outside. You don't even have to go outside. So if you're on the first floor, going outside is not so much of a problem. But if you're on the 13th floor or even the 3rd floor, putting up a ladder or scaffolding can be a bit cumbersome. So this avoids all that. There you see the springs and the chains that are shipped with the unit, as well as the mounting hardware. And I always like to point out that the mounting hardware, which comes included in the unit, it's assumed that your wall is adequate to use these inserts to hold the weight of the unit, which is about 86 pounds. If your wall is of a composite material or made up of something of a different quality, and you're not sure if it would hold, then you should put in something a bit more robust that you would field supply. And there you see the outside grills and the inside rings. So that black plastic ductwork goes between those 2 things, and that's what gets held up against the inside wall and the outside wall. And then down below here, you can also see the bracket. Okay. Every unit ships with a remote control. And as you can see from that red circle turning on the smart units, they all ship with a remote control that is in Fahrenheit only. If you have a need, as many of you will no doubt have in Canada, for Celsius, then that would be an accessory that would have to be ordered separately. So just bear that in mind, that for the Smart, it's Fahrenheit or Celsius, but on the Pro is Celsius and Fahrenheit. You'll also notice in the upper right-hand corner there that this is a GFI 110 volt plug that can plug right into a standard outlet in a wall. So the electrical part is really quite easy. This is a quick video that I'm actually going to skip past it. All it does is how to install or how to work the movable flap, where you can, the flap can move continuously, or you can set it at any particular angle you want. This is actually a look at an installation already in Canada where it was a glass window, and it was not a problem because the contractor sourced a local grill that was made of that clear material, cut a hole through the glass with a glass cutter, had a frame made of a composite material on which the unit then gets mounted. An excellent installation. I think there are multiple units in this building, all with the same type of design. So anytime you come up with an application that might be a little bit outside the box, that's what I'm there for, is to help you solve that problem. So don't hesitate. Give me a call. Let's discuss it, and I'm sure we can find a solution. This is just a quick animation of the air going in from the condenser and coming off the condenser, so intake and exhaust. This actually is backwards in that if you were to look at a unit today, this graphic was based on an older design, but I'm having it redone, is that the air coming in to the unit is on the left-hand side when looking at it from the outside, and on the right-hand side is the exhaust and where the fan is located. But that kind of gives you an idea of what happens with the air going on and off of the coils. And again, here's just a quick showing of the brackets, and I'm sorry, the chains and springs that hold those two pieces together. And then note the pitch on the duct. So when installing the duct and cutting the hole in, you always want to cut it so that it pitches to the outside. So if you get any water, rain, or anything, or snow in there, it will roll back out again. And again, the louvered grill that you see on the right, I'm sorry, on the left, is the one that ships from the factory. And the one that's on the right is not good for the simple reason it does not provide the same free area as the one on the left. We are working with a third-party vendor now to provide us with a couple of options for these grills to give you some more. And again, that plastic grill that it comes with can be painted any color. And of course, but some people may want a rectangular grill, but we have to source one that will not cause any greater restriction. And again, we'll be doing that in the not too distant future, have that available. Also, filters or mesh grids are not recommended and can actually cause an issue with the unit. As you can see here, someone installed a mesh inside the unit that was very, very tiny. So not only did it restrict the airflow and make the unit work harder, but it captures everything and eventually blocks up, and then the unit no longer works. So we are also sourcing something that can be put inside. We just have to get the right material and make sure that it does not restrict the airflow to any degree greater than if you had a 6 1/4 inch hole or 6.4 inch hole as compared to an 8 inch hole. So look for that in the not too distant future as well. As I mentioned, the unit can be installed 4 inches from the top of a wall or 4 inches from the bottom. And if you install it 4 inches from the ceiling, you then have to switch the movable flap so that it blows the air down as opposed to blowing it up at the ceiling. And it's a very brief process. It takes only a minute or two. Here you see the unit mounted on the wall with a couple of different options for condensate drain. So there is a drain off the bottom of the unit, or there's one out the back of the unit. And again, because of your colder climates, you'd want to be very cautious about installing anything with a line that goes outside. We do have some options to help with that, such as a heater that can go into the drain pan. But again, depending on your climate, you may want to consider having it either inside a wall where it can reach a drain, or put a small condensate pump on it, similar to the type used on any mini split system, and then pump it to where it would not be objectionable. Keeping in mind that in the summer months, there is almost no condensate that comes out. And that's because the condensate is pumped up to the condenser coil or the outdoor coil, and it re-evaporates, making the unit more efficient as well while it does so, and re-evap so that most of the condensate goes out through the exhaust air, and so you'll see very little in the summertime coming out through the drain line. Winter, different, of course, because we have defrost and we cannot re-evaporate that water that's been defrosted, so that has to be drained out, you know, as to the best of your ability. There is also a secondary float in the unit. So the first float, there's two. The first float is a normally open switch that closes, brings on the pump and cooling mode to saturate the condenser coil with the condensate. The second float, which is higher, is a normally closed switch that opens, meaning if the unit has to be drained because the condensate has backed up or the line has plugged up, then you can just move this flap forward. There's a drain, and you can drain out that condensate to get the unit operational again. And then, of course, you would have to ensure that the whatever plugged up the drain has been taken. So that being said, that's most of what we wanted to show with regard to the Maestro Smart. And I'm going to stop here and open it up for any questions. If anyone has a question, feel free to just call it out. Your microphones should be active, so if you have a question, please do so.
Well, Jack, I do have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, how prevalent is it during heating mode in the winter for the condensate to accumulate sufficiently that the homeowner, the occupant, is going to have to manually do what you just showed to drain the condensate?
Well, again, that depends on your climate, and you know, if the opportunity presents itself, you would have that condensate going, you know, into a drain somewhere in the house or into a pump to where the consumer doesn't have to do anything. But if for whatever reason that's not possible, and again, depending on what your climate is and how much condensate and you be defrosted, they may have to probably empty that every couple of days. But I can't imagine it would be more than that. Again, if you're in a climate where you have low temperatures and high humidity, which you might have for some period of time, as you know, as the outdoor temperature drops, the amount of moisture in the air also correspondingly drops. But there are certain times of the year where you'll have more condensate or more water in the air than on others. So again, it would depend on your climate.
I'll also jump in here. We do have an accessory that is for the condensate drain pan that is a heating element that avoids the condensate pan accumulation of condensate water to freeze up due to cold external temperatures. And this heating element allows that condensate obviously to drain out through the small penetration in the wall. So what Jack just showed is more of an emergency drain when you need to drain the condensate out the bottom of the unit, but out the back is where the valve is that normally is connected to a flexible hose, and that goes out to the exterior wall. So this heating element is something for those of you that have the colder climates. I think everybody, with exception to Murray in British Columbia, have higher ambient temperatures during the winter that may require that heating element accessory for the drain pan to be something you may want to purchase.
So we will.
You have pricing in that for that, Diego?
Yeah, I'll send it after the call today on that that accessory. I'll get that out to everybody.
Yeah, please.
Even on the West Coast, you know, in a defrost mode on a heat pump, you're going to run into some ice up situations. I mean, Vancouver's had minus temperatures over the last 3 or 4 years. So it'd be interesting to see what's happening on these jobs that have been done, you know, out in the West Coast so far, and sort of what the anecdotal experience is from the contractors.
Well, of course, we welcome any feedback that you might get from your contractors. And again, my job would be, if you have an issue that needs to be corrected, and we don't currently have a solution for that, then my job would be to find that solution. So never hesitate to give me a call and let me know what you're seeing or what your customers are asking for, because we can, I have a feeling we can probably come up with a solution one way or the other.
Hey, Diego, it's Bernie here too. To Murray's point, my concern is with that, even having that pan heater and that flowing out, that it will freeze at the end of that when it hits the outside and just creating a big icicle down the side of the building. So I'm trying to think of a situation where there can be some sort of heat tape within that condensate drain line to at least allow it to get out of the building and not freeze up at the end of it, right?
Yeah, so let me ask you guys this on gas furnaces, since you guys are more of a gas furnace on the residential, central air system. What are you guys doing there? Because you have the same type of PVC pipe coming out, draining the condensate out of the furnace. What is done to avoid the freezing or the icicle formation in those situations?
Well, there's probably nothing really done.
I'll let Murray answer that.
Yeah, there's probably nothing really done. Neil can speak to it in Alberta because it's more prevalent there. So a lot of cases you see icicles, forming on the outside of houses. For a single family home, it's not a big deal because you just have to go out and, clean that off every so often. It's when you get into these multi-story, multi-family areas, I mean, any condensate, drainage, either in the cooling mode or in the heating mode, is going to be an issue in a multi-family scenario. So I'm not sure what these guys are doing, especially in the heating mode, whether they're, I mean, in a retrofit, it's pretty tough to then, you'd almost have to have the condensate come down into a, like a Diversitec CP22 condensate pump and then pump it out somewhere.
Yeah, and that's the solution that many folks choose, mostly because they then have control over where it's going to go, and that can all be internal to the space so that freezing is not an option. And with new construction, we would definitely recommend that if it's going to be new construction, where the unit's going to be positioned, having a drain line run over to that to compensate for that condensate would probably be a good idea. So we will certainly continue to work with you on all of those. Now, this is the Maestro Pro, and as I mentioned earlier, the Smart is a single stage unit, on-off compressor, whereas the inverter-driven Maestro Pro can go from about 35% to 100% capacity based on the demand at that specific time. You can see it's a much newer design, a sleeker and clean design. This is the one that people are most excited about. You can also see that it does in fact have the highest, as the Smart does, the highest sound ratings with regard to the STC and the OITC. They are, again, made in Italy, and they do come with a remote control just as the Smart does. This is 11,600 BTUs of cooling. It is approximately 10,600 BTUs of heating. And again, it has dehumidification mode and silent mode and night mode, and we'll talk a little bit about some of that. This is actually a picture of the specification sheet that shows features and functions. And of course, on the back, it has all of the specifications with regard to capacities and electrical requirements and such. So when this session is finished, I will send an email out to those that I have an email for with a link to a zip file you can download that will have all of these tech guides, installation instruction for the Smart, wiring diagram, parts lists, all of those things you will have easy access to in one file that you can download. So this is a look at the user interface or remote control. And as you can see on the Pro unit, bottom right, it has a button for either Celsius or Fahrenheit. So one advantage to the Pro also being that you can have either and switch it as much as is needed. this is nothing more than a display of icons so that you can see when of course, this is in the installation instructions, so that every icon is identified, and then the function shown on the right, so that whenever you're looking at your remote, you can tell exactly what and why it has that display. And then one of the products that we compete with for retrofit are PTACs. So people that have existing PTACs already in the building, and they have to change it out because it's 15 or 17 years old, but they really don't want to put another PTAC back in because they're loud, they're clunky, and they're ugly. So the solution that we have is quite simple. You simply remove the PTAC from the sleeve, leave the sleeve in place, and then we're going to provide as an accessory a retrofit kit that will be very simple. It's 1.5 inches of ductboard, so a 6-sided box, if you will, and then it just slides into the sleeve that you leave in place, and you your template on the wall, line up your holes, cut the holes in the ductboard with a knife. They're quite simple, easy to do. And so you put in your duct to go from the unit to the outside grill. This grill stays in place, and from the outside it looks the same as it always did, but from the inside you have a cleaner look, and one that has the proper sound level that people would want. So a very, very simple way to retrofit for either a smart or a pro.
Jack, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you just go back?
Yep. Okay.
Okay, if we look at the PTAC that you remove, you come up with like a large empty box, a hole in the wall. You have to insulate that. You can leave it like that.
No, but this is insulated. The box that I'm talking about is 6 sides, so each side is 1.5 inches thick ductboard. So essentially, from inside to outside, you have 3 inches of ductboard. From the sides and top and bottom, you have 3 inches of ductboard, and that serves 2 purposes. One, ductboard provides a very good insulating value, and also it provides marvelous sound attenuation. So for those of you that are in a very, very cold market, you might then also consider, after you cut your holes in there, filling that box with some type of foam or that can provide even more insulation if you need it.
Okay, because in my market, I'm in Quebec, province of Quebec. We need to tell the people when they do that, but they will realize that by themselves. I'm not.
Yes, yeah, and it's a very good point, and I appreciate the question. And certainly for your market, I mean, they make 2-inch. We could have these boxes made from 2-inch insulation as well. And then you wind up with 4 inches top, bottom, sides, front, back. And again, whether or not that would be sufficient for your market, you would have to let us know that. But I think this will do nicely for most applications, and for yours, we would simply add what we think you would need to maybe fill that box up.
Okay.
So again, any other at this point?
Yeah, I have a question, Jack. It's Farid from Cool Estate, Ontario.
Yes, sir.
You said about the ductwork, 39-inch maximum the wall thickness. In certain application situation of the site, can we extend the duct line? And how far we can extend that?
So as I mentioned earlier, the widest the wall can be is 39 inches, or basically 1 meter. And you cannot extend it past 1 meter. You cannot put an elbow on it, nor can you put any bend in it. And the reason for that is really quite simple. This unit is very compact, and it's very, very quiet. You have a self-contained unit sitting inside the building that sounds no different than a air handler on a mini split. It's that quiet. So if we had to try to accommodate thicker walls, or if we wanted to try to accommodate elbows and bends and additional length, the motors would have to be much larger. And once you start adding larger motors, you exceed the efficiency value that you want to keep. You use considerably more watts, and your noise level goes up correspondingly. So we know that there are applications that this will not be a solution for. And we just don't, I believe the factory's position is simply the number of installations that we will miss out on is minimal by comparison to the number of installations that we will get, because the unit is so quiet and so efficient. So that's the reason why it's not permitted.
All right, thank you, Jack.
You're quite welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question here. As the guys know, I actually received my unit and built myself a little display demo thing with a mock-up wall and everything. Excuse me. Now, I had a couple of issues. When you cut an 8-inch hole into a standard 16-inch on center wall, the left side of the 8-inch hole actually impinges on the stud. So the mounting hole, the only mounting hole that's available, if you're looking at the unit, you're looking at the mounting template, the far left side, only the one single hole is available, hitting the 16-inch or hitting the stud.
So if I understand you correctly, you're basically saying that you were putting both 8-inch openings within that same 16-inch stud space.
No. If you take a 16-inch on center framed wall that's already in existence, which is standard for most construction in North America, and you take the template and look where the mounting holes are for the bracket versus where the holes end up, the left hole actually will fall. If you cut an 8-inch hole, it falls halfway in the middle of the stud where you want to mount your mounting bracket to. So it means you have to either.
I think I understand what you're saying. However, and I've been on a number of installations, and in fact built a wall myself that I have about 85% finished in my garage where I am right now. And the stud that, basically I position the unit so that the stud goes between the two 8-inch holes. So
yeah, no, that's correct.
Yeah, 3.5 inches between the 8-inch holes, which is plenty of room for a stud to take up. And then the 8 inches on either side do not come anywhere near any of the other studs. They're just not that large. So I think it's a matter of positioning it in a way that allows you to have the 8-inch or have the stud between the two 8-inch holes. And I think you'll find that will typically work out quite nicely.
But I think I understand what you're saying, Murray.
And then your mounting holes on the far left side of the bracket aren't hitting a stud.
Yeah, exactly. There will be no stud for the second hole. That's what you're saying, Murray.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand what you're saying.
You either have to put a block up inside the wall. Believe me, I went over this thing. I spent a couple of hours trying to figure out the geometry of the whole thing. But anyway, having said that, not all the weight is, most of the weight is actually on the right-hand side of the unit rather than on the left-hand.
Correct. That's where the compressor is.
Which will have a stud, yeah.
You can still get the single hole into the stud, but the two holes beside it don't fall on a stud. They'll be in between the stud space.
So again, if we look at this, where there could be a 60, and of course this is just hand drawing here, but so we have a stud in between these two holes and then ones that are on either side. But again,
so if you look, none of those three mounting holes on the far left side are actually going to hit the stud.
Agreed.
No.
Agreed. And so two things can occur here because again, what I think the intent is for these holes to be used where possible. And if they don't line up with your stud because you want to make sure the wall, you're trying to center it in the wall or you're trying to center it as best you can in your wall, then simply drill 2 more holes wherever that stud's going to be, and then you have.
No, but Jack, on the left side, if you know, on the top, you see you have 2 inch, 6 inch, 1 inch,
Yes.
almost 2 inch. If you put that together, you're far away from, not far away, you're about 2-3 inches from a stud,
From the stud.
possibly could be on the left.
So again, then the things that if I were doing that application, I would do one of 2 things. I would either abandon these holes and simply not use them because they're not near a stud, and I would drill in the bracket 2 more holes over here that would hit the stud. Or I would continue to use these holes, but instead of using a lag that will go into the stud, I would use a bolt that's like a butterfly bolt that I go through and I mount on the sheetrock. Because sheetrock, if you had 3 or 4 of those on there and it's just standard sheetrock, that's plenty good enough to hold the 86 pounds. So again, I think there are multiple methodologies there to do that. And I think whatever works best for your job is probably the one that would work best overall for you. And I recognize the issue, but I think it's one that I know has been overcome quite nicely by some of the other applications, installations. And I've got some installations coming up probably next week, and I will be taking multiple pictures of the different methodologies that will be used for various applications. So you'll definitely be seeing some further stuff coming out in the not too distant future.
Okay, so Jack, I had another question.
Sure.
With respect, so when I fired my unit up, I went through the preliminary, there's the diagnostic step where you press down the, I forget whether it's the reset button, but it's the auto diagnosis cycle.
Okay.
So I went through the process, and it tells you whether it's in the heat pump mode or cooling only mode. And it also gives you other indications. Now, if I plug it in initially, go through that step, and then I unplug it and I want to go and do a demonstration 2 weeks from now, and I plug it back in again, do I have to go through that auto diagnosis step each time you power the unit or you break power to the unit?
No, you do not. In other words, once you've done it the first time, in fact, I don't even know that you have to do it the first time, other than when you click the buttons to bring on either auto mode or cooling or dehumidification. Typically, when you reset the unit, unplug it and turn it back on again, it's going to go to whatever mode of operation it was in when it lost power. So it's got a little EEPROM in there, erasable programmable read-only memory chip, that stores the parameters that are already in the unit. Let's say you have it set for 72 degrees in heating mode. So when you turn it back on again without touching the remote, it should turn back on at 72 degrees in heating mode. So you don't have to go through every time you demo it. You certainly don't have to go through and do that.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So you don't need to reconfigure it to heat pump or cooling only.
No.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
That would not be a good way to have it, particularly if consumers that would, I think, find that difficult to have to do every time they had power reset.
Yep, fair enough. The third question I had then, and I've been asked for the information, is we were provided with a performance curve for the smart unit, which gives cooling capacity at various indoor temperatures, but also, more importantly, everybody wants heat pumps out in this part of the country here. Do you have we've got it in watts, but do you have a curve for BTUs?
Let me check, because I do have the curves for both heating and cooling for the Pro, but I don't have it in front of me right now, and I don't recall. I believe I have it in both watts and BTUs. So I will look at that, and that's going to be in the information that you get with the email that will follow this presentation is you will have those heating and cooling curves for the Smart and the heating and cooling curves for the Pro. And then keep in mind that we are having these units AHRI certified. That's been pushed back because we can't have the certification done until one of our engineers is at the testing facility. And that can't happen until this COVID-19 goes away and we get back to whatever normal is going to be. So when we have that testing done, we're also going to have expanded tables drawn up so that you'll have in cooling mode both sensible and latent capacities at various indoor and outdoor temperatures and humidity levels. So that will be coming in a more expanded way as soon as we can get that testing completed.
So HRI certificate, how are these certified? Are they certified the same as a through-the-wall AC unit or PTAC?
Correct. These are basically by the Department of Energy. The DOE considers these units basically room units or portable, if you will, or room units. And so they're rated in CEER, which is Combined Energy Efficiency Ratio. And Combined Energy Efficiency Ratio is how all room air conditioners are rated. And so we have no legal compelling reason to produce both EER and SEER. However, we are going to, because we understand that our customers want that. So we will be producing each of those values as part of the extended testing that we're going to have done. And I think you'll find that the information will be very complete.
Are you doing HSPF as well?
Yes, in fact, I've got HSPF already on the spec sheets. And then, like I said, when we do our expanded ratings, those will be expanded as well.
Yeah, we are not required to have AHRI certification. The ETL certification that we have for Canada is sufficient. But we decided that with the Pro unit, being that it does have an inverter, that we would go forward and spend the $15,000 to get the unit AHRI certified so we can use that logo and get more credibility in the marketplace. We will not do it for the Smart. The Smart will remain ETL, but we are going to spend the money to get the AHRI. So if everything goes well, I hope that we can have something here, in the next 3 to 4 months, pending when our engineer, like Jack said, can get out of Italy to witness the testing. That's something that one of our big competitors, Innova, is not have available. I've heard claims that they are and they are not certified and that they do job site certification. But regardless, we're going to go an extra step above ETL and get ARI certification to give you guys an easy way to go and promote this to your distributor customers and saying, hey, this is an ARI certified machine. But keep in mind that it is not required of us to do that by the Department of Energy.
Thank you, Diego. And the product that you see here is another extension to what we will be introducing on the Maestro line, which is Maestro Twin. And when completed and released, it basically means you'll have an outdoor, a unit that must mount on the outdoor wall, just like the current Maestro, but then you can run an electrical line as well as refrigerant lines to a separate fan coil that would then share the capacity of the two units so that you can basically be handling two separate spaces. Very similar to, say, a mini split that has multiple indoor units, if you will. So we think that's going to be a nice introduction. Again, because of this virus thing, it's going to probably push us back at the very least a few months, but I think it will be a nice introduction when it finally hits the market. And then our B2 Air, for you folks that are in any part of a city or buildings, commercial applications where you have either hot water or chilled water for cooling, this B2 Air is a very unique fan coil unit that can have both either a hot water coil or a cold water coil, or both hot water and cold water, which would give you very, very good dehumidification capability. And you can see that the thickness of this unit is only 5.1 inches and that goes from 200 CFM to 1,000 CFM. So it's a very, very low profile, quiet, easy, silent technology. It uses a Tangeal technology for the fan. So again, quiet in a similar way that a air handler for a mini split would be. And again, you can have either radiant heating with forced convection, radiant heating with natural convection, cooling with forced convection. And again, the 4-pipe unit can provide simultaneous heating and cooling. And then we also can, like I said here, you see the CFM and the millimeter inches for the dimensions for each of the units for the B2 Smart. And again, they can be installed high on the wall, middle of the wall, or low on the wall.
These are intended for connection to a chiller or a boiler, right?
That is correct. So a chiller for obviously cold water and a boiler for hot water, and you can have either one or both coils in the same cabinet so that you can do simultaneous heating or cooling.
Yeah, let me add to that, you know, this line of product, again, you can see here from the slide, can be recessed in the wall, so out of sight, out of mind, both horizontally as well. So what the advantage we see with this versus some of the other fan coil products you see out there today is that we're 5.1 inches deep. And so there's not a fan coil on the market that has that capability when you start looking at horizontal applications. So you really could do a drop down ceiling as a return plenum and right there have your supply and return without having to do any additional duct work. So almost a ductless chilled water fan coil is what we're trying to achieve here.
And then again, it can be recessed into the wall. There are both vertical and horizontal applications. On the bottom right, you can see where it's recessed into a wall, so you only have a return grill and a supply grill. And then, of course, on the horizontal or vertical on the wall in the upper left, you see the return grill and the supply grill, and it's a very, very low impact piece of equipment. So again, we have,
Jack,
yes.
sorry, does it comes with a fan speed controller?
It comes with a controller that you can control it on the panel, or you can control it with a remote. So it has multiple opportunities for you to control the fan coil.
So how many speeds?
How many speeds? I'm going to say
3 speeds, Olivier. 3 speeds.
3 speeds. Okay, 3 speeds for and on the Smart version, I believe that one is ECM motor. Is it not, Diego?
Yeah, these all have ECM motor. All the B2 Air is all one product category. They all have EC motors.
ECM motors. Okay.
Okay,
So,
great. Thank you.
Look at the on-off button, the remote control, and also the display panel. And here you see the B2 Air, and just so it's kind of showing some of the components that are inside the unit, so that you get a better feel for what you would see in there. The heating panel, the valve with the thermoelectric actuator, that is an accessory kit, water temperature sensors. So just kind of giving you a quick overview of what those components are in the B2. And again, in the files that you will be receiving, the specifications are included with not just those numbers, but the ratings for BTUs as well. Any additional questions on the B2?
Sorry.
Yeah, just, if I could, Jack, on the with the remote, is it available in both Fahrenheit and Celsius?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Again, when it's going to be available? Next year?
Yeah, right now the goal was to launch this at the ASHRAE show next year in Chicago. We hope that obviously with the delay we have with everybody working from home in Italy that we may be a little bit delayed, but we did already show this at the ASHRAE show here in Orlando this year. We got a lot of interest, but I would say that, Olivier, probably at this point, beginning of second quarter 2021 is what we're estimating for this product.
Okay.
Other questions? All right. So the final product that we wanted to talk about was our Dolce Clima product line, which is a line of portable units. These are very, very popular with a lot of folks, and for both use in say an upstairs where you've got 2 rooms upstairs that are rarely used and you can move between one room or another. Businesses having rooms that have comfort issues, either short or long term, where they need a solution quickly. And then of course, contractors looking for a solution to provide customers with a comfort option when the main system fails. So, we've seen contractors buy, 3 of each size. And then if a consumer loses their main air conditioner in their home or the main heat in their home, they can put the various number of these throughout the house to give them the comfort level that they need. And then they take them back out when they repair or replace the unit. So they're very, very popular in regard to, again, the sleek design. This is, again, a look at the front of the Dolce Clima Compact. It's 10,000 BTUs. Again, you have fan mode, dehumidification mode, auto mode. And in the right-hand corner here, you can see the installation kit. So it comes with a slider that can go, basically it goes into a window and you close the window on it. And then you use a duct that goes from the window to the back of the unit. And you can basically move it to wherever you are within distance of the hose to put it out a window. And each unit is 5-year warranty on the compressor, a 5-year warranty on the parts. And here you see all the specifications for both, all the electrical and what your maximum and minimum values are and what the test conditions are. And this is similar information. Yes.
Sorry, buddy. I'm just noticing something is more, the EER is definitely wrong. 2.64 is not the EER. So we need to, it's on the front page too. I think that might still be the way that Europe was calculating EER. We need to make sure we revise that.
Okay.
Just make a note of this.
And again, we have a 14,000 BTU model. That is the Air Pro 14 HP, which also is heat pump. And then the third unit is the Air Pro 14 AC only. So 3 different models at this point, more to come. And we feel that gives you a good opportunity to have a product line, not just with the Maestro, but with the other products that we have, to give people a comfort level of dealing with a company that has multiple products to offer that are proven in the field and have a very low warranty rate. So that is our 4 major products right now, along with some understanding of what's coming down the road. So the Maestro Pro, the Maestro Smart, the B2 Air, and also the Dolce Clima. So at this point, I'm going to open it up to any questions on any of those products.
Yeah, I had a couple. It's Neil speaking from Alberta. You had any issues with, like, we get down to 30 below and you'd have an 8-inch basically conduit to the outside. The unit's obviously not running at that temperature. Have you had any issues with cold draft around the unit?
Well, it's a good question, but I don't think that we've had any complaints. First of all, these units, because they are so quiet, and the reason they're so quiet is they are very, very well insulated. So I'm not familiar with 30 degrees below zero weather, but I would tell you this, that one of the things we discussed with our folks up in Alaska, because that's turning into a very nice market for us up in Alaska, where, about a month a year they need cooling, and they look at this as a marvelous solution to that issue. And of course, they don't care that it has heating, that it's a heat pump, because they already have all the heat they need. So what they'll do in the wintertime is they will take the, what we discussed doing is they will take the outside grill off and just put a cap over the outside grill, and the cap would have 1.5 or 2-inch ductboard on it. And now you've got additional insulation where you won't get snow or any rain or anything going in because the unit's not going to be used in the wintertime. It simply will be shut off. So by putting the cap on there, and this unit is designed to operate in heating mode, will give you good return value in watts versus capacity down to about 5 degrees. And then below 5 degrees, we just don't feel that there's, the squeeze is, or the juice is worth the squeeze, if you will, because you're not getting the same amount of capacity. And you would need, if you're going to have temperatures at 30 below, this unit's not going to be your primary single source for heating. You would have to have some other supplemental heat. And my guess is something that would, you may want to cut this unit off at 20 degrees or 30 degrees, whatever the case may be, so that you avoid, having that low capacity and using your main heat.
Okay, thanks for that. And any issues with bugs or birds, or you don't have a screen in it, you said at the grill?
Well, and that's certainly a concern for people. And I'll tell you what I'm working on right as we speak. So I'm looking at a mesh grill, and it's not something that Italy has approved as of yet, but what I'm looking at is we can have 2 hole sizes on this unit. We can use either an 8-inch hole or we can use a 6.4-inch hole. So my goal is to come up with a grill that can go inside the unit, and it would have, say, 1/4-inch mesh, which is large enough to still give me plenty of free air and free area, and then small enough that it would prevent most critters and most bugs from entering into the space. But you're still going to have to clean it once per year is the recommendation. So if you're in an area where you have a lot of small bugs and you get these swarms that happen in various parts of the year, if they get into the coil area, then they'll have to be cleaned off. With this, again, the goal for that mesh that I'm looking at is that it have no more impact on the unit than if you went from an 8-inch hole to a 6.4-inch hole. You have some capacity loss, obviously, some efficiency loss, although very minor and typically of no significance other than it's measurable. So as long as I can get a grill to go into the 8-inch opening and then have it reduced down to no more than the same losses that I would incur if I were using a 6.4-inch, then as far as I'm concerned, that should have no negative impact on the equipment whatsoever. So that's the goal, and I think we'll be able to achieve that.
Okay, and thanks for that. And just the last question, we don't need dedicated power for these units then? We could just use a
if you look in the installation instructions, it will tell you that it is recommended that you have a dedicated power source, but it does not say it's required. So the reason for that is the smaller unit actually uses a few more watts than does the larger unit, because the larger unit is inverter driven. There's no lock rotor amp draw. There's no, everything starts up slowly and it uses less watts. And so the smaller unit uses a few more watts, but that's only around 8 to 9 amps at full capacity. And so if you plug it into a standard 15 amp outlet or 15 amp room plug, as long as the rest of the load on that 15 amp circuit is, does not exceed the 15 amps, you're good to go. If you install this in a wall that also has 2 refrigerators and a freezer on it, you're probably not going to like that.
All right, thanks.
Other questions?
Hey, Jack, Bernie here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just made a couple notes, just of things you're going to send us. So you're going to send us this recording of this PowerPoint, is that correct?
Well, I'm going to send you a link to the recording because the recording will be too long to send it. So you'll get a link to basically go to the Olympia Splendid YouTube channel, and you'll be able to basically watch it like any other YouTube. And then the PowerPoint and a PDF of the PowerPoint, along with the other documents that I spoke about earlier, will all be in that zip file that you will have access to simply download.
Perfect. Also, you had mentioned on a previous call we had, and Diego mentioned, you can send us a parts list
Yes.
for some of these replacement parts.
So let me very quickly, for those of you that have an interest in that. So this is one of the files that I put together, which is all of the part numbers and the part number itself, along with the exact component. So, you know, if somebody walks into your office and says, hey, I need one of these thingamajigs, and they're kind of holding and dangling it, you can see exactly what it is on this file, what its part number is, and you can order exactly what you need. Okay.
That's awesome.
So, and then here's an exploded view here, and that exploded view gives you, you know, again, someone could look and say, okay, I need number 67, you know, and then you can go and look at, I have another file that's an Excel file that would have them all listed there as well. So we're trying to be as proactive as we can to provide you with the best tools possible to make your life as easy as possible. And if there's something that I'm not giving you that you think would be helpful, you just have to let me know, and then I will do what I can to create it.
Okay, and I assume these, I mean, like you said, there's not too many fails, but there is going to be some times where they're going to have to repair some of these units. All this stock is in New Jersey, is that correct?
That is correct. Currently, all of these parts that you see here are in a warehouse in New Jersey, just as are all the units. And eventually that's changing to Dallas, Texas. We've got some guy out there that likes Dallas, so he's moving everything here to Dallas.
Okay. No, just a couple other questions.
Where you could ship anywhere from Dallas for basically the same price as opposed to shipping across the country. So eventually they will all move to Dallas, but you know, at some point you might decide, or one of your distributors might decide, well, rather than have to pay for, you know, shipping to get them there, they may stock some of some parts or something. But you know, certainly that's something we can work out.
Okay. And one other thing Murray had mentioned, you're going to try to see if you can get us those performance curves and BTUs.
Yeah, so let me take another quick look here. Somewhere in here, I thought I had.
While you're looking for that file, Jack, there was, I think we mentioned, is there talk of having an auxiliary heater built into the units?
Well, again, I think currently the only thing that we have would be what Diego mentioned earlier, which was there's a heater that can go into the pan, and then you know, if we need something in addition to that that might help you folks in the here we go. So here are the curves that I have for the Maestro Pro. Okay, cooling capacity in BTUs at various outdoor temperatures, power input in watts for the same curves, and then heating capacity curve in, again, BTUs and power used under those various conditions. So this will be coming in that zip file that you'll be getting later today.
Okay, perfect.
And then also, so as far as an additional heater, again, we'd have to get, I think, more specific about what it is we think we need and how that would impact both the unit and what the wattage requirements would be. And of course, we're certainly open to researching whatever it is required. I don't want to tell you that I can promise you we'll definitely have something, because until we can see how it impacts the unit and how it impacts the overall performance, At some point, we may have to, look harder, but it may not be an easy search depending on what we finalize as what the need is. So I would probably ask for more specifics from you folks with regard to, how thick are your walls? Are you on 6-inch studs or 4-inch studs? Do you have electrical tape? Do you have codes that would bar the use of resistance type heat within the frame of the unit or within the wall? If you were going to say use wrapping tape, heat tape to go around the line directly to the outside, we'd have to look at again the legal ramifications of that as well. So but we will certainly do so once you can tell me, your bottom line low condition is going to be 20 degrees Celsius, negative 20 Celsius, or negative 8 degrees Fahrenheit, or whatever the numbers are, and then we can look into what it would take to make that happen.
Hey, Jack, can you go to the heating curve there, please? Okay, so the lower line is the outdoor temperature in Fahrenheit, right?
Correct. So again, we only rate down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit because again, the factory's position is simply that below 5 degrees, the juice is not worth the squeeze, and you would have to have some other type of. So you're looking at, as we get down to 5 degrees, approximately 3,000 BTUs of heating available, and at that point you can be using that as supplemental heat to maybe reduce whatever your alternate source of heat is, or you can turn it off and then just use whatever your alternate source of heat is. So
if you look at, so a conventional PTAC has electric heat backup in it.
Right.
Either cooling with electric heat to match the nominal capacity, or it's a heat pump that will shut off at around, I forget what the temperature is.
Whatever your balance point
around
is.
20 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it'll go on to electric resistant heat. So most designers, mechanical engineers or whatever have that concept in their mind, that you have an internal electrical backup heat to supplement the drop in capacity of a heat pump unit, right? So that's why I say, an internal, if you're going to get that drop in capacity here, and 25 degrees Fahrenheit isn't going to be uncommon even in Vancouver in the winter time, you're going to need to have some supplementary heat. So either you have to specify they have to have a baseboard electric heater installed as well, or they need to or you'd have it integrated into the unit itself.
So, and I would tell you that there are no plans to integrate an electric heater into this unit for a very simple reason. The shell, the skin, if you will, the body is made of composite plastic, and that would never, a bazillion years, pass UL. Okay.
Hey, Jack, let me jump in here real quick. So what Jack just stated is true. However, in Italy, the Pro unit does operate with an electric heater. And one of the things that the engineering director took back from the Orlando ASHRAE show was implementing a 1 kW electric strip heater in the Pro. So they're looking at that now. Depending on what the ETL certification requirements are, that could force us to either go to a metal cabinet or able to complete the composite cabinet if they approve it. So one of the things that I had been pushing for since all the feedback you guys have given us, and even markets like New York and Chicago where it does get below our operating max on the ambient side, was we need electric supplemental heat. We can't always bank on the fact that, they got to have some type of electric baseboard in order for our unit to be operational. So I want you to know that it is on the product plan. And it's something that engineering is taking a hard look at. They just need to see which direction they are going to be forced to go by ETL because of what Jack said, because now you've got an electric heater in a composite cabinet. Is that going to fly, or do we need to go to some type of a metal cabinet? But I want you to know that it is something that is at very high on the list of what needs to be done as an upgrade or the next generation of Maestro Pro units.
And one other thing I was going to ask you, Diego, Bernie here, can you send us the pricing on those Clima units, and are we able to sell those in our markets as well?
Yeah, the Dolce Clima, I'll get you guys pricing. I believe everybody should have pricing, but I will send a separate file with the commissioned Dolce Clima pricing for those units. And I'll say this, that, you know, here in the United States, we're predominantly offering that online, which today, in today's world, it looks like it played into our favor because everyone buying online, you can't go into most of these stores today. But if you have connections with Canadian Tire or François Olivier, Renault, which is a department store, Home Depot, you know, right now today we sell the Dolce Clima on Walmart.com, another company called Wayfair, which is like an Amazon. We're also in Bed Bath & Beyond, and doing some business also with Lowe's. So we've got several of these online retailers that we're doing business with. And so if you can help us with getting those on retail side, we're definitely interested in that.
Yeah, we'll look at it.
Very good. Diego, one question for you. Forgive me if I've asked this in the past. The units, when you bring them into the United States, I've had my broker look at the customs clearance. Are you paying the 6.5% or is it duty free?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I don't think it's duty free, but I would have to check with our shipping department on that. So if I can get back to you on that, usually our shipping company that we use handles that. I really don't get too involved with that. I'll have to look into that, but my gut's telling me I don't think it's duty free, to be honest with you. But let me get back to you on that one, okay?
Yeah, because we're trying to determine the correct tariff classification, and it'll either be 6.5% or it'll be duty free based on what the government considers it to be.
Does anybody else, from when I shipped you guys those sample units, you guys paid duties on that, did you not?
Well, if I look at your invoice, it's kind of funny invoice. Shipping is $309, and custom manager, I don't know who that guy is. $309.
Yeah, I think that it's all rolled up into one, but let me take a look at that, because I know that we charge, whenever I even do a quote for a job, Francois, we always make it very clear that anything that is customs related or duties related is the responsibility of the rep. You know, because sometimes you guys may even have your own customs brokerage firm and you don't want to use ours, but we offer it.
But Diego, on the invoice, the shipping is $309, and I think Murray paid, I think, $18 more than me.
Uh-huh.
For 2,000.
All the way to BC, yeah.
Yeah, all the way to BC.
Yeah.
Pretty unusual. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I can get with our shipping department, Francois, and find out. Like I said, it's a third-party company we use for all of our shipping, and I can ask them that. I didn't even look at the difference between shipping to BC or shipping to Quebec, but I'll look into that for you guys.
Okay, because the custom and fees is $100. That's for sure. Okay, get back.
Any other questions for Jack or me? I mean, I know we've gone our full hour and 20 minutes. A lot of great questions, by the way.
Excellent.
And I think that, you know, like Jack said, anything you guys need, please feel free. On the technical side, feel free to reach out to Jack. On the sales side, I'll be handling that piece of it, but we're one team. So, and that you guys are a part of that team. So all I would ask is, now is a great time with everybody at home to send out the spec sheets, some of the videos that Jack is putting together on YouTube on installation, to gauge the interest now while most of the markets in Canada are shut down. I know that Bernie's shipping his sample unit all around to various distributors for them to take a look at. And of course, it's a whole different story when they can actually touch and feel it and hear it. But I think we need to take advantage of this time that, you know, please schedule your trainings with Jack, with the various distributors that you want to bring on board. And let's try and see if we can get some distributors to bring in some inventory, because once we get out of the dark tunnel here, I think that we're going to be well into the cooling season, and we need to be prepared to have local inventory in each of your markets. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Appreciate it. Looking forward to working with all of you. And if there's anything we can do, don't hesitate to give me a call.
Okay, thank you very much.
Keep in mind, when the travel
Thank you. Bye-bye.
when the travel restrictions are lifted, and if you need representation from Olympia Splendid to talk to your customers face to face, we can certainly accommodate that. So keep in mind that we are here as a resource for you, and just call and ask. And the chances of getting me up there are quite good, particularly if it's during this king salmon run.
All right, thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Bye-bye.
day. Safe.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Diego. Take care, guys.
Thank you very much.